Have you ever started walking more, eating cleaner, reducing sugar, or trying intermittent fasting, only to step on the scale a week later and feel disappointed? The number barely moves. Your reflection looks almost the same. Your clothes do not suddenly fall off your body, and immediately the thought appears, maybe nothing is working. But inside your body, something may already be changing. Visceral fat is not like the fat you can pinch under your skin. It does not sit quietly on the outside of your body where you can easily see it. Visceral fat is hidden deep inside your abdomen, surrounding important organs like your liver, pancreas, and intestines. Because it is stored inside the abdominal cavity, it can begin changing before you notice a dramatic difference in the mirror. This is why some of the earliest signs of visceral fat loss are silent. They are not always loud. They are not always obvious. They may show up as a slightly looser waistband, a flatter feeling in the morning, fewer cravings at night, less sleepiness after meals, or more stable energy throughout the day. And these signs matter because visceral fat is not just stored energy, it is biologically active. It can communicate with the rest of your body through inflammatory signals, hormone changes, and metabolic stress. So when visceral fat begins to decrease, the first improvements may be internal. Your blood sugar may become more stable, your insulin response may improve, your liver may experience less pressure, your body may begin switching between fuel sources more efficiently. One of the biggest myths is that if the scale is not dropping, fat loss is not happening. But body weight can be affected by many things: water retention, sodium, glycogen storage, digestion, hormones, inflammation, and even muscle gain. You can be improving your internal metabolic health while the scale moves slowly. Another myth is that belly fat loss must be visible immediately. Many people expect the stomach to shrink dramatically within days. But the abdomen is influenced by multiple layers: subcutaneous fat under the skin, visceral fat deeper inside, bloating, posture, water retention, and digestion. Sometimes the first improvement is not a dramatic visual change, but a subtle feeling of less pressure inside the waist. The third myth is that only extreme diets melt visceral fat. In reality, visceral fat responds strongly to repeated healthy signals: better insulin sensitivity, regular walking, protein-rich meals, better sleep, lower sugar intake, fewer ultra-processed foods, and longer breaks between meals can all help shift the body away from storage and toward healthier energy use. So in this video, we are going to explore 7 silent signs that your visceral fat may finally be melting away. Your waist feels slightly looser. Your morning belly feels flatter. Your blood sugar feels more stable. You feel less sleepy after meals. Your cravings become weaker. Your energy feels more consistent, and your sleep and recovery improve. These signs are not medical proof, and they do not replace real measurements or lab tests, but they can help you recognize that your body may be improving from the inside before the outside fully catches up. To understand why these signs happen, we first need to understand why visceral fat behaves so differently from normal fat. To understand why visceral fat loss can create silent changes before obvious weight loss appears, we need to understand what visceral fat actually is. Most people think all body fat is the same, but the body stores fat in different places, and those locations matter. The fat you can pinch under your skin is called subcutaneous fat. It sits between the skin and the muscles. This type of fat can affect appearance, body shape, and clothing size, but it is not the same as visceral fat. Visceral fat is deeper. It sits inside the abdominal cavity, close to organs like the liver, pancreas, intestines, and stomach. Because it surrounds important organs, it has a stronger connection to metabolism than many people realize. Visceral fat is not just a passive storage tank. It behaves almost like an active organ. It can release inflammatory chemicals, influence hormone signals, and affect how your body responds to insulin. This is one reason why someone can have a normal-looking body from the outside, but still carry too much internal fat around the organs. This hidden fat is closely linked with insulin resistance, fatty liver risk, high inflammation, blood sugar problems, metabolic syndrome, and cardiovascular stress. That does not mean every person with belly fat has a disease, and this video is not diagnosing anyone. But it does mean that visceral fat is a powerful metabolic signal. The good news is that visceral fat is also responsive. Because visceral fat is metabolically active, it may respond faster to lifestyle changes than stubborn subcutaneous fat. The fat under the skin, especially around the lower belly, hips, or thighs, can be slow and resistant. But visceral fat often responds when the internal environment changes. So what changes that environment? One of the most important factors is insulin. Insulin is a hormone that helps move glucose from the bloodstream into your cells. It is essential for life. But when insulin is constantly elevated because of frequent snacking, high sugar intake, large refined carbohydrate meals, poor sleep, and inactivity, the body receives a repeated message to store energy. When insulin stays high too often, fat release becomes harder. The body is busy managing incoming energy, so it has less reason to access stored energy. But when blood sugar becomes more stable, insulin demand may decrease. This can happen when you walk regularly, eat more protein and fiber, reduce sugary foods, avoid constant snacking, and sleep better. As insulin becomes more balanced, your body has more opportunity to access stored fat. Visceral fat is especially sensitive to this hormonal environment. When insulin sensitivity improves, the body may begin reducing internal fat storage pressure before you see a huge visual transformation. Another factor is inflammation. Visceral fat can produce inflammatory signals that affect the whole body. When metabolic stress decreases, inflammation may also decrease. And when inflammation decreases, some people notice less puffiness, less abdominal pressure, fewer energy crashes, and a lighter feeling in the body. This is why the first signs of visceral fat reduction are often not dramatic. You may not wake up one morning with a completely flat stomach. Instead, you may notice that your waistband feels slightly less tight. Your morning belly feels calmer. You do not crash as hard after lunch. Your cravings feel less aggressive. You feel more stable. These are not random changes. They are signals that your internal metabolism may be becoming more flexible. Visceral fat loss is not just about burning fat. It is about changing the internal conditions that allowed that fat to build up in the first place. The body begins moving away from constant storage mode and toward better fuel use, better blood sugar control, lower inflammation, and improved communication between organs. Now that we understand why visceral fat behaves differently, let's look at the timeline of how these changes may unfold, from the first few days to several weeks of consistent habits. When people begin improving their lifestyle, they often expect immediate visible results. They look in the mirror every morning, hoping their belly will suddenly appear smaller. But visceral fat reduction usually follows a quieter timeline. The body changes internally first, then those changes gradually become visible on the outside. During the first week, especially the first 3 to 7 days, the biggest changes are often happening in blood sugar regulation and fluid balance, rather than actual body shape. If you reduce added sugar, stop late-night snacking, increase protein, walk after meals, or begin intermittent fasting, your blood sugar may become more stable throughout the day. Instead of repeatedly rising and falling, glucose fluctuations may begin to smooth out. As this happens, insulin also has more opportunities to return toward its normal baseline between meals. This is important because your body cannot remain in a constant storage-focused state if insulin has regular periods of decline. At the same time, your body may begin using some of its stored glycogen more efficiently. Glycogen is the stored form of carbohydrate found mainly in your muscles and liver. Every gram of glycogen is stored together with several grams of water. As glycogen levels naturally fluctuate during healthier eating and increased activity, your body may also release some of this stored water. This is one reason many people report feeling lighter during the first week. Their rings fit differently. Their face appears less puffy. Their stomach feels less swollen. Their morning waist feels more comfortable. These early changes are not necessarily large amounts of fat loss, but they reflect an improving internal environment. During the second week, another important change often begins inside the brain. Many people notice that cravings become less intense. At first, this may seem surprising. They expected cravings to become stronger while eating healthier. But after repeated days of more stable blood sugar and fewer sugar spikes, the brain often begins demanding fewer quick rewards. Instead of constantly thinking about sweets, chips, or sugary drinks, many people discover that food occupies less mental space. This is one of the earliest signs that appetite regulation may be improving. It is not simply a matter of stronger willpower. The biology itself is changing. More stable blood sugar often creates more stable hunger signals. By the third week, subtle physical changes may begin appearing around the waist. Remember, visceral fat surrounds your organs rather than sitting directly under your skin. As the internal metabolic environment improves, pressure inside the abdominal cavity may gradually decrease. You might notice that your jeans button a little more easily. Your belt may tighten by one additional hole. You may feel less uncomfortable after sitting for long periods. Your stomach may feel softer, rather than constantly tight and bloated. Morning bloating may become less noticeable, because your digestive system has had time to rest overnight. These changes often happen gradually enough that you barely notice them day by day. But if you compare photos or clothing from several weeks earlier, the difference may become easier to recognize. During the fourth week and beyond, another important process develops: metabolic flexibility. Metabolic flexibility is your body's ability to switch efficiently between burning glucose and using stored fat for energy. Many modern lifestyles reduce this flexibility. Constant snacking, sugary drinks, poor sleep, minimal movement, frequent refined carbohydrates. All of these keep the body focused on processing incoming energy. But consistent walking, balanced meals, better sleep, and longer periods between meals give the body opportunities to practice using stored energy. Over time, many people begin noticing steadier energy throughout the day. Instead of feeling exhausted every afternoon, they remain productive longer. Instead of crashing after every meal, they stay mentally alert. Instead of constantly searching for snacks, they feel satisfied for longer periods. These changes do not necessarily mean the body is burning only fat. Human metabolism always uses a mixture of fuels. But they do suggest that the body is becoming better at choosing the right fuel at the right time. It is also important to understand that progress is rarely perfectly straight. Some mornings your stomach may appear flatter. The next morning, it may look larger again. This does not mean your visceral fat returned overnight. Many temporary factors can influence your appearance, including sodium intake, hydration, sleep quality, stress, digestion, menstrual cycles, constipation, carbohydrate intake, and even how much food remains inside your digestive tract. This is why judging progress based on one day can be misleading. The body is constantly adapting. The better approach is to look for consistent patterns over several weeks, rather than reacting to daily fluctuations. As healthier habits continue, these quiet internal improvements become more noticeable. And the most encouraging part is that your body often tells you these improvements are happening before dramatic weight loss ever appears. There are 7 silent signs that many people experience as visceral fat begins to decrease. And understanding what each one means can help you recognize that your metabolism may be moving in the right direction. The first silent sign that your visceral fat may be decreasing is that your waistband feels slightly looser. This may seem too simple, but it is one of the most useful signs, because visceral fat sits deep inside the abdomen. When the internal fat around the organs begins to decrease, and when inflammation and bloating also improve, the waist may feel less tight before the mirror shows a dramatic change. You may notice that your jeans button more easily. Your belt feels less uncomfortable. Sitting down after a meal no longer creates the same pressure around your stomach. Maybe you do not look completely different yet, but your clothes feel different. That small change can be a sign that the pressure inside your abdomen is beginning to improve. The second silent sign is that your morning belly feels flatter. This does not mean your stomach will be perfectly flat every morning. But if you consistently wake up feeling less bloated, less heavy, and less swollen around the midsection, it may suggest that your digestion, fluid balance, and internal metabolism are improving. A flatter morning belly can happen when you stop eating late at night, reduce sugar, improve sleep, and give your digestive system more time to rest. It can also reflect lower water retention and less abdominal inflammation. When this happens together with better habits, it may be an early sign that the environment around visceral fat is changing. The third sign is that your blood sugar feels more stable. Most people do not measure blood sugar all day. but they can feel the effects of unstable blood sugar. Sudden hunger attacks, shakiness, irritability, energy crashes, and strong cravings can all happen when glucose rises and falls sharply. As visceral fat begins to decrease and insulin sensitivity improves, many people notice that their hunger becomes less urgent. They can go longer between meals without feeling desperate. They do not feel as shaky if lunch is slightly delayed. Their energy feels smoother. This is important because visceral fat and insulin resistance are closely connected. When your blood sugar feels more stable, it may suggest that your body is handling fuel more efficiently. The fourth sign is that you feel less sleepy after meals. Many people think it is normal to feel exhausted after eating, but heavy post-meal sleepiness can sometimes happen when the meal is too large, too high in refined carbohydrates, or when the body struggles to manage blood sugar efficiently. When your metabolism begins improving, meals may no longer feel like they shut your body down. You may finish lunch and still feel alert. You may eat dinner without immediately wanting to lie on the couch. This does not mean you should never feel relaxed after eating, but a noticeable reduction in food coma can be a powerful sign. The fifth sign is that your cravings become quieter. This is one of the most important changes because long-term fat loss rarely comes from willpower alone. If your body is constantly sending powerful cravings for sugar, snacks, and late-night food, consistency becomes extremely difficult. As blood sugar stabilizes, insulin sensitivity improves, and your meals become more balanced, the brain may stop demanding quick energy as often. The cookie in the kitchen may still look good, but it no longer feels impossible to resist. The desire for late-night snacks may become softer. You may realize that you are choosing food instead of being controlled by food. This is a sign of improved appetite regulation. The sixth sign is that your energy becomes more consistent throughout the day. Visceral fat is closely linked with metabolic dysfunction, and one common symptom of poor metabolic flexibility is unstable energy. You may feel awake after coffee, tired after breakfast, sleepy after lunch, and hungry again by mid-afternoon. But when your body becomes better at switching between glucose and stored fat, energy often becomes steadier. You may notice fewer afternoon crashes. Your focus may last longer. You may not need snacks every few hours just to feel normal. This does not mean you become energetic every minute of the day. It means your energy pattern becomes less chaotic. The seventh sign is that your sleep and recovery improve. This may surprise some people because they think fat loss only happens through diet and exercise, but sleep is one of the most powerful regulators of metabolism. Poor sleep can increase hunger, reduce insulin sensitivity, raise stress hormones, and make cravings harder to control. When visceral fat and inflammation begin decreasing, some people notice that sleep feels deeper. They wake up less puffy, their body feels less stiff. Walking or exercise does not leave them feeling drained for days. Morning energy becomes better. Better recovery is a sign that the body is under less metabolic stress. But remember, these 7 signs are not medical proof. They are clues. They are signals that your internal environment may be improving. The best measurable signs still include waist circumference, blood pressure, fasting glucose, A1C, triglycerides, liver enzymes, and body composition over time. Still, these silent signs can be encouraging because they remind you that progress is not always loud. Sometimes your visceral fat begins melting away quietly, long before the outside world notices. But even when these signs appear, many people accidentally slow their progress by making common mistakes. When visceral fat begins to decrease, the benefits go far beyond appearance. A smaller waist can be encouraging, but the deeper reward is what happens inside your metabolism. One of the most important benefits is better metabolic health. Visceral fat is closely connected to insulin resistance, blood sugar instability, fatty liver risk, and inflammation. So when this hidden fat begins to decrease, your body may become better at handling glucose, using insulin, and switching between fuel sources. This is why some people notice improved energy before they notice dramatic weight loss. Their body is no longer fighting the same level of internal metabolic stress. Meals feel easier to process. Hunger feels more predictable. Afternoon crashes become less intense, and the body begins to feel more stable. Another benefit is lower internal inflammation. Visceral fat can release inflammatory signals that affect the whole body. When visceral fat decreases, those signals may begin calming down. This may show up as less puffiness, less heaviness, better recovery after exercise, and a general feeling that the body is not as swollen or irritated. A third benefit is better daily energy. When blood sugar becomes more stable and the body becomes better at using stored energy, you may no longer feel like you need constant snacks or caffeine just to function. This does not mean you never get tired. It means your energy becomes more predictable and less dependent on quick sugar. Over time, another benefit may appear: a smaller waist. The scale may move slowly, but waist circumference can reveal internal progress. Since visceral fat sits deep in the abdomen, losing it can gradually reduce abdominal pressure. Your clothes may fit better, your belt may feel looser, and sitting after meals may feel more comfortable. Reducing visceral fat also supports healthy aging. Metabolic health, liver health, heart health, blood sugar control, and inflammation all affect how the body ages. When you improve the internal environment, you are not just trying to look better, you are helping your body function better for the long term. But many people make mistakes that slow this process. The first mistake is only watching the scale. The scale can hide progress because body weight changes with water, sodium, glycogen, digestion, hormones, and muscle. If you only trust the scale, you may quit before your body has time to show deeper improvements. The second mistake is eating healthy, but too frequently. Even healthy foods can keep insulin stimulated if you are constantly snacking. Your body needs periods without incoming food, so insulin can fall and stored energy can become more available. The third mistake is doing only cardio while ignoring muscle. Walking is excellent, but muscle is one of the most important tissues for glucose control. Strength training, even simple bodyweight exercises, helps your body store and use glucose more effectively. The fourth mistake is sleeping too little. Poor sleep can increase hunger, cravings, cortisol, and insulin resistance. If you are trying to lose visceral fat while sleeping only 5 hours a night, your biology may be working against you. The fifth mistake is expecting belly fat to disappear first. Subcutaneous belly fat can be stubborn. You may improve internally before you see dramatic external changes. This is why the silent signs matter. They help you recognize progress before the mirror fully confirms it. The goal is not perfection. The goal is to keep sending your body the right signals long enough for internal change to become visible change. So how do you support visceral fat loss correctly and recognize real progress? If you want to support visceral fat loss correctly, the first thing to do is stop relying only on the scale. Body weight can change from water, sodium, digestion, stress, sleep, and hormones. A better measurement is your waist circumference. Measure it once per week, at the same time of day, under the same conditions. Do not measure every few hours. You are looking for a pattern, not a perfect number every morning. The second step is to walk daily. You do not need to punish your body with extreme workouts. A simple 20 to 30-minute walk, especially in the morning or after meals, can help your muscles absorb glucose, improve insulin sensitivity, and reduce the environment that supports visceral fat storage. Walking is not just movement, it is a metabolic signal. The third step is to eat protein and fiber first. Protein helps preserve muscle, supports fullness, and stabilizes appetite. Fiber slows digestion, supports gut health, and helps blood sugar rise more gradually. When your meals are built around protein, vegetables, beans, whole grains, and minimally processed foods, your body receives a very different signal than when meals are built around sugar and refined carbohydrates. The fourth step is to reduce late-night eating. Nighttime snacks can keep insulin stimulated and make it harder for the body to enter a longer overnight recovery window. You do not need to starve yourself, but giving your body several hours without food before sleep can support digestion, blood sugar regulation, and fat metabolism. The fifth step is to protect your sleep. 7 to 8 hours of quality sleep can support hunger hormones, cortisol control, insulin sensitivity, recovery, and long-term fat loss. Poor sleep can make cravings stronger and metabolism less stable, even if your diet looks perfect. So let's summarize the 7 silent signs that your visceral fat may finally be melting away. Your waist feels slightly looser. Your morning belly feels flatter. Your blood sugar feels more stable. You feel less sleepy after meals. Your cravings become quieter. Your energy feels more consistent. And your sleep and recovery improve. These signs may seem small, but they matter, because visceral fat loss is not always loud. Sometimes the first changes happen deep inside the body, before the mirror or the scale shows dramatic results. Your liver may be under less stress. Your insulin response may be improving. Your blood sugar may be more stable. Your inflammation may be decreasing. Your body may be learning how to use stored energy again. And that is the real goal. Not just to lose weight, but to create a healthier internal environment where your organs, hormones, muscles, blood sugar, and fat cells work together more efficiently. If you found this video helpful, subscribe for more science-based videos about visceral fat, fasting, walking, blood sugar, metabolism, and healthy aging. And comment below, which sign have you noticed first? A looser waist, fewer cravings, better energy, or better sleep?